Most ambitious professionals spend their 20s running at maximum capacity, only to realize their treadmill is sinking directly into the sand. We are conditioned by academic environments to prove our intelligence by speaking the most in group meetings, raising our hands, and reading a new book every week. Hustle culture amplifies this by demanding we say yes to every single opportunity that crosses our desk. But the market punishes this exact behavior. Attempting to do everything results in stagnant growth, severe burnout, and losing ground to competitors who say very little but execute with lethal precision. This chart shows the ROI of reality, an analytical framework to evaluate standard life advice as strict financial investments. Activities like reading 50 mediocre books a year or attending dozens of broad networking events sit entirely in the high-input, low-leverage quadrant. They require massive energy, but yield almost zero measurable return. Generating massive leverage requires cutting the dead weight. It demands agonizing subtractions, replacing dozens of shallow commitments with a single, highly concentrated effort. Reaching a champion level of output requires a permanent trade-off. You must exchange the temporary comfort of looking busy and feeling smart for the harsh, objective reality of actual results. The first trade-off is the deep learning protocol. Buying piles of books, rapidly skimming them, and tossing them aside just to say you finished them is a complete waste of time. The necessary input is finding one rare, exceptional text and reading it 2, 3, 4, or 5 times. You squeeze it for every ounce of utility until you possess the ability to actively teach its frameworks to someone else. If your physical behavior does not change after reading, you learn nothing. True mastery installs permanent behavioral upgrades, stripping away the cheap dopamine hit of collecting useless trivia. This directly leads to the focus equation. Amateurs fear missing out, believing that maintaining a wide array of options will eventually create wealth. In practice, growth requires severing good opportunities. You must cut away perfectly viable branches so your energy is forced up a single dominant stem. Executing this will cause acute short-term anxiety. You will have to say no to exciting projects and disappoint peers who do not hold themselves to your standard in order to secure long-term market dominance. Mastering your knowledge and focus means abandoning the vanity metrics of a crowded calendar. You trade public applause for invisible, compounding competence. Expanding this framework to longer time horizons introduces the consistency multiplier. Amateurs are always hunting for a secret shortcut or a rapid pivot. They want a new novelty tactic to bypass the daily grind of ordinary routines. This graph shows the reality of an extraordinary accomplishment. It is flat for years. The input required is executing mundane actions flawlessly for decades. You must stick to your original vision despite the illusion of stagnation and constant shiny distractions. When you interact with the market over these long time horizons, the value negotiation becomes critical. Most approach negotiations as a zero-sum game, trying to ruthlessly extract every single penny from a vendor today. The superior strategy is leaving immediate cash on the table. You ask the right questions to understand the other party's 10-year needs and construct a deal that solves their problems without compromising your own core values. Surrendering that extra 10% upfront generates fierce, amicable loyalty. That relationship acts as a massive referral engine, sending a higher volume of lucrative downstream deals your way. Generating compounding wealth forces you to override your primal instinct for instant financial extraction and prioritize long-term relational survival. The same mathematical logic applies to social capital through the status and humility inversion. A young, educated professional enters a room and immediately starts posturing. They blather on about their own past accomplishments to prove they belong to a new group, inadvertently exposing how little they actually know. Professor Clayton Christensen provided a precise, counterintuitive definition of humility. It is not decreasing your regard for yourself. It's actively increasing your regard for others. The input here is strict. Assume you are the least experienced person in the room. Shut your mouth, listen intently, and figure out how to serve the group's needs. If you sacrifice your ego to serve, the group automatically elevates you. They will reward you with status and feed you high-level market intelligence that you would have entirely missed if you were talking. Genuine status is never taken by verbal force. It is a resource granted to you by the group only when you suppress your desperate need to perform. All of these actions operate within the progression cycle. There is no final, safe destination where a business stops demanding effort. This loop governs growth. Failure leads to learning. Learning produces success. Success breeds complacency, and complacency drags you back to failure. The goal is bypassing the complacency trap, forcing yourself back into the painful state of being a student. This leads to the final, heaviest cost of all, the ignorance tax. Right now, amateurs are operating with a clear blindfold on, entirely held back by flawed, inherited beliefs they refuse to drop. If someone is further ahead in the game than you, they have a more accurate view of reality. You must pay them with actual capital, your time, and absolute humility to extract those obvious truths and adopt their framework. Shedding false beliefs is not an optional luxury. It is a mandatory tax you pay to remove the blindfold and see the business landscape exactly as it is. Looking at the data from the ROI of reality, every ambitious professional faces two diverging paths. The short-term opportunist optimizes entirely for vanity. They want to look smart in meetings, maintain infinite optionality, and constantly seek the novelty of the next big hack. If you fit this profile, attempting to apply this 7-lesson framework will feel highly restrictive. It will systematically dismantle your ego and leave you feeling exposed. The alternative is the long-term optimizer. These individuals willingly delay gratification, embrace profound boredom, and treat their careers as a decades-long compounding vehicle. Elite-level success is never a function of checking off a massive list of tasks. It is strictly a mathematical output of doing fewer things, doing them significantly better, and executing them for a terrifyingly long time. The market is ruthlessly efficient, and the ignorance tax is an inescapable law. You have a choice. You can pay that tax slowly through decades of agonizing, ego-driven trial and error, or you can pay it quickly by shutting up, focusing your energy, and doing ordinary things for an extraordinary amount of time.